So today we're going to do the handover video on the Chausson 637. We're going to start on the outside and then we're going to move on to the inside. So firstly, coming over to the passenger side and opening up the passenger door, you'll notice that you've got your fill-up points. You've got your diesel, which is into the top there, and your AdBlue, which is just beneath that. Whilst on the passenger side, you'll notice that you have got your Emm-Bee cab blinds, which are here. To operate them, simply pinch and fold out like so. With these Emm-Bee cab blinds, all you need to do is lead from the bottom and let them connect up on the magnetic strip like so. You've got them on each of the windows, including the big one at the front, and as I say, using the magnetic strip will just allow them to align and connect and black out the entire cab. To take back in, all you need to do is simply pull and, as I say, lead from the bottom like so and let that slide back into place and clip in. Now, as a rule of thumb with anything in a motorhome is if it feels like it's being forced, you are probably doing something wrong. So if that is the case, just take a moment just to think about what you're doing and then restart. You'll notice down here you have got a cover as well which says Truma on it. That's your Truma cover vent for the Truma vent on the back. I'll get into more detail about that, but when the vehicle is parked up on a site, you need to take this off when using the boiler, and then when travelling this needs to go on to ensure that no mud or soot gets in to the boiler system or the vent. Now moving on, coming around to the front of the 637, to open the bonnet, all you need to do is put your key in here, turn it to the left and then to the right, and that will unlock and open the bonnet. Now there's not many things that you need to know underneath here. The main things that you need to know is if you're ever jump starting the vehicle. If that is the case, I'll show you how to do that now. With the bonnet open, you can see I've just used the key just to open it up. In here you have your the radiator coolant. You've then got your power steering fluid. You've then got your engine oil here with a dipstick below, your brake disc fluid, and then your washer fluid, which is just there. Now, as I mentioned, the main thing that you need to know is if you're ever jump starting the vehicle. If that is the case, your positive just goes onto this terminal here, as you can see, underneath that cap, and your negative just connects onto this ring just down there. Just that ring there. It's quite difficult to see on camera, but just this ring here is where you connect your negative. Now moving along the vehicle and around, you've got your habitation door on this side, along with your gas locker, which is just here. Now, whilst on the topic of gas, please ensure that the gas bottle is turned off when travelling to ensure that there's no, to ensure that it's safe to do so, because obviously if you was involved in a crash and you've got live gas running through the system, it's going to be very dangerous. So please make sure that the gas is turned off when travelling. Another thing to know when travelling is to ensure that all your windows are closed and all your locker doors are closed, just to avoid them swinging open when travelling on the motorway. Moving across, you'll then notice you've got your fridge vents, which are just here. This is where the fridge pulls all of its air from, just to cool the fridge. Now, typically, if it's a hot day and you've got the sun beating down on this side of the vehicle, if you turn the vehicle round, try to keep this under the shade. That's going to help it out miles better, and it's going to mean that the fridge is going to work a lot more efficiently. So, as I say, if it is hot, please make sure that this area is under shade. And when you're storing the vehicle, you can get winter covers as well for when it's cool. Moving toward the back, you'll notice that you have got a little sticker here. This sticker indicates where your drain down point is for your wastewater. Now, you have three main drain down points in the Chausson. You have your waste drain down, which is here. You've then got your freshwater drain down, which is on the other side. And finally, you've got your boiler drain down point, which is internal to the vehicle. They're all very important, and you need to make sure that when travelling off site, so you're finished on site rather, and you're going home, to drain down the entire systems. To do that, for the wastewater, all you need to do is come to this point here, and there's a black handle here. Pull that towards you, that will empty the wastewater. Now, when you're on site, you'll have a big grid that you can drive over to dump that water, and once you've done that, when I dump the majority of the water, I'd personally leave that open. So as you're travelling home, all of the water is going to get vibrated and shaken out of the vehicle. As I say, I'd do that for all your drain down points, including your your fresh water and your boiler drain down. Now moving to the back is your locker or storage area. I'll just open that for you now. And once open, you can see in the back here you've got your carpets, your inflation kit, and then you've got some infill cushions to turn your front area into a bed should you want it, to convert this into a 3-berth. You'll notice this has got a heater as well, so this area is fully heated and insulated. Moving across to the back, you've got provisions for a bike rack should you want one, and your reversing camera, which is just located up at the top. Again, similar story on the other side. You have another access point into your garage here. And as I mentioned, you've got your Truma vent, which is just located here. When travelling, as I mentioned, the cover needs to be on this. And then when stationary and you're using the vehicle and using the boiler, this needs to be off. If that is not removed, what will happen is you'll get an error code. And it'll keep failing. If you do that more than 3 times, so you try and power the vehicle with that cap on more than 3 times, it will shut down the entire system, and that's when you need to go to a reset. So just please make sure that the cover is off when using the Truma system. Moving on, next we've got your WC, which is your cassette toilet. Your cassette toilet is really important because there's something called the blade on the toilet, which needs to be closed when removing the cassette. Opening this up gains you access to the cassette. To remove it, all you need to do is pull up, as you can see, on this little orange handle, and then remove like that. Now you should always remove it only when you've checked that the blade on the toilet is closed, to ensure that this doesn't get blocked or forced or stuck. What has typically happened in the past is this can feel like it's getting stuck, so customers will continue to pull, it'll ultimately jam and then break. So please ensure that the blade on the toilet is closed, and I'll show you where that is later on in the video. Now to empty this, all you need to do is pull out the cassette like that, just place it on the floor. You then need to pull out the funnel and remove the cap by twisting it. On the back, you have an orange button here. Click that in to release the internal vacuum, and that will allow all the contents to flow out easily. You will notice that you have also got an orange spindle here, which allows the cassette to open and close. This should always stay in this position. You should never ever need to move this or whatever. It should always stay in this position, because if this is slightly off, for example, and you try and put it back in, it'll ultimately break again. So that should always be in that position. Should have no need to turn that. Once swilled out and putting back in, all you need to do is line it up with the wheels, slide it in, lift up the handle, and then let it clip in like so. Moving on, you've then got a point for your 230-volt hookup cable, so this is where you can feed all your mains into the van. And then beside that, you've got your convenience locker. Now before we go into the convenience locker, you'll notice there's another little sticker here, and that indicates your fresh water drain down point. So your wastewater's on the other side, fresh water is on this side here. And that is located underneath the van. I'll just pause the video now and show you where that is. When underneath the van, you can see that you've got 2 pipes. You've one with a white cap on, and the other one which is free, it's got nothing on. It's quite difficult to see on the video, but in essence this one which has got nothing on, that is your breather pipe, so don't worry about that. And then to drain down your wastewater tank, all you need to do is pull that cap off, and that will drain down the entire tank. When draining it up, or when filling it up rather, put that cap on, and then you're good to go. And again, once you're on site or on the grid, pull that off so all the water can drain into it. Now coming back up to the convenience locker, you can see that you've got your fresh water tank here. Unwinding that out, all you need to do is remove the cap to fill this up. Obviously please make sure that that bung is on, and then your hose pipe can go in like so. All you then need to do is fill up the tank, and then you can tighten this back into position, and then you're good to go with water. You have got a bigger cap here as well that you can remove if you're wanting to wipe out the insides of the tank. And you'll notice that you have got a little brown lever here which almost looks like a drain down point. This is a drain down, however it's a quick drain down point, and in essence it'll allow you to drain the 120 litres all down to 20 litres. So for example, if you're travelling off site and you're going onto another site, or you're wild camping and you don't know whether you're going to end up with any water for where your destination is, all you need to do is flick this up, go on the inside of the vehicle, turn your pump on, which I'll show you later, and that'll drain the entire thing down to 20 litres. Now if you want to drain the entire thing down, obviously you need to go underneath and pull off that bung, but if you're draining just to 20 litres, you can do that through there. Next to this, you've then got your electrical systems. You've got your RCD breaker here, so if the vehicle ever trips you can come to this point here, and your fuses, which is just next to that. Walking into the vehicle, you can see up on the left hand side as you walk in, you've got your control panel. Now to turn your lights on, all you need to do is hold in the master switch, and as you can see by default your lights have all turned on. You've firstly got your light button here which isolates and turns on and off all the lights in the vehicle. You've then got your pump button here which activates the pump, and then you've got another light which is on the side, and that indicates the light which is just above the habitation door. Now the pump, you're going to be using this for when you're priming your system and when you're using your system for obviously flushing the toilet, washing your hands, washing pots and pans. Now when you're on site, please make sure that you only run the pump when you've got water in the van. So once you've filled up with water, click your pump on. You can then come to your taps, including your shower, turn them on and turn them to hot. What that's going to do is it's going to pull fresh water from the fresh water tank into your boiler and then out to your tap. It'll spurt and splutter at first, and then when it's running steadily, you've primed your system for your tap, or for your hot water rather. Once you've done that on hot, flick it over to cold and do the exact same, and when it's running steadily, you've primed your system. Do that for, as I say, all your taps, including your shower. What is worth noting as well is all your taps have a micro switch on which will activate and deactivate the pump whenever you need it. So providing you've got water in the system and it's all been primed, you can leave your pump on because it'll never burn out. It'll only burn out if you leave your taps on and you run out of water. So just make sure that that doesn't happen. Now the reason I tell you to do it on hot water first is to pull water through the boiler. So then when you turn your heating on, it can then start heating that water, as it does take a bit of time naturally to heat up. Now coming back over to the control panel, this is your LED screen, and this is your indication of your leisure batteries, your vehicle batteries, and your water levels. To show you them, underneath here you've some more switches. Your first one is your habitation battery. As you can see, we're nearly full, nearly at 100%. Next is your vehicle battery. As you can see, more or less about 75% there. And then finally is your freshwater tank level, which as you can see we've got about 75% in. I've got a little bit in at the moment. You can then alter the brightness of the screen should you want to, just by clicking this button here as well. Now up at the top you've got your Webasto heating control. As you know, Webasto is a diesel heater and it'll heat the entire thing through blown air heating using diesel as your fuel. All you need to do is turn that. As you can see, your little triangle glows green, and that will begin putting the charge through and feeding it through. Now one thing to notice, or to note rather, when you turn your Webasto system on, you may have seen it in the video just then, is your lights will begin to flicker. They'll flicker for about 15 minutes. The reason for that is it's just powering up the system. So it draws a lot of energy, so it's just powering up the system. Now it does the same thing for 15 minutes when you turn it off. In fact, it is doing it now. I don't know whether you can see it on the video. But with that in mind, don't worry, that's the only reason. It's just powering down, it's just drawing a lot of energy to cool down the system. And that lasts for about 15 minutes or so. Moving down to the kitchen area, you can see that you've got a 230 volt socket here, which obviously will only work when hooked up to electric. You've then got your grill, which is just down here, and your hob, which is up here for you. Before moving to the back, you can see that you've got your travelling seats, which are just here. Seat belts are just below, or just beneath the cushions. And then you've got your 2 travelling seats up at the front, which of course do swivel. Coming into the back, you can see that next you've got your fridge. Your fridge is a 3-way system, and to turn it on you need to just click the button and it will activate the system for you. This is a touchscreen system, so you can click back and forth to choose what fuel you want. Now, the reason it's called a 3-way fridge is there's 3 ways to power it. So you can either run it off 230 volt electric, gas, or 12 volt. So when you're wild camping, you'll run it off your gas. When you're on site, you run it off your 230 volt electric. And then when you're travelling, you run it off 12 volt. Now, a lot of people think that they can run the fridge off 12 volt when they're wild camping. However, that is not the case. If it was, it would just drain the entire vehicle of all of its power. So with that in mind, you need to, of course, make sure that it only runs off your gas or it'll only allow you, rather, to run it off the gas when wild camping. And you can only run it off your 12 volt leisure battery when travelling, because this vehicle has got a built-in alternator which will send power to your leisure battery as the engine battery is running. Just to show you that in action, if I hold that down, you can then flick through the options, as you can see. Now, you have got the option of A, which is auto, and that will automatically assign whatever fuel you've got in the vehicle. Now, I've no fuel in at the moment, so by default it's selecting gas, but you get the picture of how that works. Just clicking the screen again, you can then change between the temperatures as well. And to turn it off, just hold and it'll turn off like so. Now, above, got a bit of storage as well as the same thing here. Coming across, you've got your bathroom area. Now, as I say, your bathroom area is really important. We've spoken about your priming system for your sink and also your shower, and we've also mentioned about pulling the blade on the toilet. Now, the blade on the toilet is this here. This will allow it to open and close. At the moment it's closed. It is closed yet, and then if you push away, it's open. So, how to use this? When you're using the toilet, you need to open the blade so all the waste can drop into the cassette. Once you've done that, you need to click that blue button on there, which will activate your flush and flush out all the contents into the cassette. Once you've done that, you then need to close the blade like so, which is just pulling towards you, and then you're good to go. Now, you close the blade for 2 reasons. The main reason being is it stops the odours from escaping, but 2, it also gets you into the habit of getting that closed, so when you come to remove the cassette, you never run into the issue of it getting clogged or jammed. As I mentioned, your flush is just on that blue button there, and please be aware that you do need your pump on for that to operate, and you'll get a red little light on there for when it is full. Now, coming away up at the top, you can see that you've got all your storage along with a bit of storage up here as well. Now, moving below, you've then got your 2 beds here, 2 single beds. As you can see, you have got your infill piece, which will slot into here if you want to make it a half double. Now, the main thing that's remaining here is to talk you through your water heating. Now, as I mentioned, your Webasto heating is separate, and that is for your heating on the inside of the vehicle, which will use diesel. And then for running the water, or heating the water rather, it is a Truma system, and that runs off gas and electric. To operate that, as you can see, you've got 2 options here. Your EL or electric option is here, and your gas is here. Now, in the middle position, it is off. As you can see, it's quite difficult again to see on the video, but you've got the off position there. If you flick it up, it allows you to run the system off 2 kilowatt electric. And if you flick it down, it allows it to run off 3 kilowatt electric, depending on how much you are supplied with on the campsite. So if you're on site, you're going to run it off this, and that's what's going to be powering the vehicle for its water heating. Your next option is running it off the boiler, so using gas as the fuel instead of electric. So for example, if you're wild camping, you're running it off this. It's a similar idea. Up at the top, you can run it and have it on 50 degrees, and at the bottom, you'll have it on 70 degrees. In the middle, again, it's off. 50 degrees is going to be for when you're having a shower, and 70 degrees is, of course, when you're washing up and things like that. Now, behind here is the boiler, and this brings us on to your final drain down point, which is underneath your bed. I'll lift the bed up now and show you where that drain down point is located. With the bed lifted, I've just removed this piece of wood, which divides and separates the boiler. Now, it looks very complicated. However, the only thing that you need to know how to operate is this little yellow switch here. In the up position, it is open, and in the down position, like so, it is closed. So when you're priming your system and you're using the van, make sure that's closed, because if you don't, it'll just drain directly out of the van. And when you stop using the vehicle, flick that up, and that'll drain all the water out. Especially this cooler time of month, please ensure that that is open. That's the most important drain down point of them all, because if your boiler freezes, it's an expensive job to remove it and get a new one in. You will also notice that you have got red little taps here and there over the vehicle. They're isolated taps. You don't need to worry about them. They're for our technicians when they're working on your vehicle. Now that concludes the handover video on the Chausson 637. I hope you enjoyed.